Hello everyone! It is that time of year where booktubers talk about their favorite books of the year, and I've got a stack. Now I have a couple that I didn't want to go track down because my husband is still sleeping and he's in the bedroom and I didn't want to wake him up to collect the books. So all of the books I do own. I might just have to put images up for the ones that were in my bedroom. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited to put together this video. And a lot of these books, well, I say a lot, quite a few of these books are going to be ones you haven't heard me do a wrap up for. So I'm exceptionally excited to talk about those because during the last few months, you guys know I took a little bit of a break just to get my head cleared and prepare myself for the coming year on BookTube, all of that good stuff. But yes, so thrilled to go through all of my favorite books of the year with you. And I have one that is at the very top, definitely my favorite book of the year, and I will save that for last. But the rest of these, I really couldn't decide. I had a lot of 5 stars this year, even though I kind of felt a little bit of burnout, even though I kind of was getting over the whole booktube thing there for a little bit, like not wanting to participate. And a lot of that had to do with stress in my life because I have PMDD, I have PCOS, and it was just an added pressure. Of course, we'll go through my 2025 goals and you'll see some shifts and some changes that I plan to make in the coming year. But as it is right now, these are my favorite books. I don't know how many I have on this list. I think it's somewhere around 15, but I'm going to be including multiple books in series on this list. So it could be 20 just because I'm going to include some series in this. For a recent read of mine, I have an auto by author, and that is Erin A. Craig and the 13th Child. Now, this did garner a 4.5 from me. It was not quite the 5-star, and I will explain. Erin A. Craig tends to write very gothic novels, very centered around fae, and they're usually dark, macabre. They have some sort of like magical element to them. And I thought this one was lacking it a little bit. This one leans more fantasy than the rest of her books do. And while I enjoyed that, I also was kind of let down by that. Doesn't make sense whenever you think about what I like to read, because I do like to read fantasy. It's just not what I expected from Erin A. Craig. And in this book, we have Hazel, who is a 13th child, and the 13th children are always promised to the gods. They are the gods' children. They take them under their wing, give them powers, and have them pursue their goals alongside their own goals in the story. And we do start off with some horrific things in this book. Since Hazel has been promised to the gods, her parents really don't want to have anything to do with her. The god that she was promised to was supposed to retrieve her at a certain date. He never came. And now Hazel is older and she's just another mouth to feed for her family. And they kind of look down on her, shun her a bit. She does have one brother that she grows close to, but her power that is bestowed upon her is she can see death. She knows how to cure the sick. She knows what needs to be done. That is the power that the god has gifted her with. And she knows when someone's going to die. So it's really cool because she uses this gift to rise in the ranks of this world and to surpass what most people had planned for her and actually gain quite a lot of power and influence in this world. It's a really intricate look at what power can do to a person and how power can change a person. I really, really enjoyed it. It just wasn't Small Favors. It wasn't House of Salt and Sorrows. I was looking for something a little bit more gothic. Now, I will put out a trigger warning. This does have some gore because she does deal with death quite often. So I think that is where Erin tried to bring in the dark, the macabre that she usually infuses into her books. But for me, it just kind of read as this is part of her power, not necessarily anything creepy or anything that was like get under your skin. It was just part of what she does. And the cover, oh my gosh, I love this cover. So yes, 4.5, I think it was great. Next, I have to talk about the book that brought such nostalgic feels to me and was instantly like a 5-star because I couldn't put it down, and that would be Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. And I loved this. This was a game of cat and mouse between a witch and a witch hunter, and it was so fun. The characters were great. I loved the growth and the development of the relationship. We have Gideon, who is this witch hunter, and he is traumatized. He's also on the hunt for the Crimson Moth. And a lot of the books say the Crimson Moth as the title, but it's the title of the series. And the Crimson Moth is a witch who helps other witches escape from being turned over to the government and slaughtered, pretty much. During the day, our Crimson Moth character, her name is Rune. She is a pretty princess, no thoughts in her head, very much an act, but she pulls it off really well, to the point that no one suspects her of being this Crimson Moth, the one who is infiltrating the shadows and taking down all of the people who are wronging witches in this world. That is until there is a hint dropped to Gideon that she might actually be this character. She might actually be the person behind all of this. He doesn't believe it. His brother is in love with this girl. He knows her so well, so he thinks. And there's no way that she could be it, but he's following every lead that he can, so he decides to befriend and pursue Rune. Now, Rune knows what's going on. The jig is up. She knows what Gideon is doing, but she decides to play along so she can get information on another witch that she is hunting down. And they start this whole cat and mouse thing, and it was just so good. It was so fun. I had to give this 5 stars because I couldn't put it down. It was so easy to read. Like I said, the romance was really good. Everything about this was just great. And I cannot wait for the second book. I know it is coming soon. I will probably reread this in anticipation of the second book, because that's the thing I'm going to do in 2025. I will be rereading. And I loved it so much. Highly recommend. And then we have The Women by Kristen Hanna. And this is another that is hiding in the other room. I'm sorry if I shifted. I had to go grab something for my puppy dog. Anyway. I loved this book so much, and Kristen Hanna knows how to tug at the heartstrings so well, but this is about the Vietnam War and everything that went down in the Vietnam War, and if you don't know anything about what happened, I would highly recommend looking it up, because it was horrific the way everyone was treated when they got back. It was horrific what those people had to deal with while they were over there. And our main character is one of the first females who wants to go to war. There are women in this war, but they are nurses and things like that. They go to give motivation to the troops and everything. And when our main character comes back, she's kind of disowned from her family, but she had gone over there to see if she could be with her brother. And turns out her brother passes away just as she's leaving. So now she doesn't really want to go, but she goes ahead and leaves anyway to make something of herself. In doing so, has to confront the realities and horrors of war and what it means for the people around her. And comes back, like I said, everyone treats these people like crap because this is a war no one believed in. Everybody thought that the people that were fighting over there were in the wrong, and so they are often spit on. They're often shunned in society, and she only ever wanted to be something more than what she was. And she's a nurse, but there were no people who would hire her as like a head nurse, even though she had all the training for it. And so she uses these skills in the war that is in Vietnam. And when she comes back, she has a lot of PTSD, and it's about her going through the PTSD and making something of herself, even though everything around her and everyone around her wants her to fail. And it was heart-wrenching, beautiful, just as Kristen Hanna always is. She's always probably going to be a 4 or 5 star author for me. She's going to be an auto-buy author for me. I do have The Great Alone, which I do want to read in 2025. I never add those to my want to read in 2025 lists or anything like that, because I have to be in the mood for Kristen Hanna. I have to be in the mood to want to cry, things like that. Like, I can't just bring myself to read it at any given time. And they're historical fiction, which I don't read a whole lot anymore. But I absolutely adore The Women, and if any of that appeals to you, I highly recommend it. And then a series that has become a favorite of mine, just this author has become a favorite of mine. I say become a favorite. This is my favorite series. I adore this so much. I love Megan O'Keefe's writing. I love her twisty plots. I love the way that she drops little nuggets along the way and just waits for you to pick them up. And if you don't pick them up, she's going to bring them back around. I just love that. I love it. And In this book, this is another that's really hard to explain because there's a lot going on in this series. But our two main characters, we have the son of the head of the most powerful family in this world, and then we have a character who has worked for them. And they are now on a mission to bring down this family. There are reasons for this, and part of this is because she went on trial stating that they had done something horrific, but they could never prove it, and so she was kind of kicked out. But she started this revolution against this family, against the heads of this world, trying to bring them down because they were making the population sick and they were killing off worlds. And no one knew how to fight against them because they were the most powerful people in this world. Then we have the son of the Mercator clan, and he kind of believes her. So Tarquin and Narya, by the way. And he wants to investigate this. And so he goes on a mission to investigate what she was talking about. In doing so, he finds some horrific things have been happening and they've been like pushing it under the rug. But somehow Narya has made her way onto this mission and she starts to sabotage things. And he's like, whoa, 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 wait. Like, I might be on your side. Why are you fighting me? And she doesn't believe him, but there's a lot of things that happen that have them start working together. And like I said, I can't explain everything because everything is so intricately woven together that it's hard to talk about one thing without spoiling another thing. But we basically have people who are mapped. These bodies are not theirs. Their conscience is alive and it is transferred into new bodies. So if they die, they can be remade. And a lot of this has some talk about why that could be bad, or what if you just printed a whole new body? What if you just decided you wanted to be someone else? What if this bad person decided to infiltrate the ranks and you had no way to know that that was actually them or if it wasn't? There are programs that like distinguish body language and stuff like that that can give you away, but what if you were able to get around that? And this talks about all of that. And I loved every single book in this series. I love Megan E. O'Keefe's writing. I think this is one of the best series I've ever read. The best series I've ever read. I'm not sure. I go back and forth on that sometimes, but I really, really love this series. You guys will be seeing a lot of book of the month coming up, and we can talk about that at a later time. But this is a romance that I just fell in love with the entire series. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I have loved every installment in this. I know that a lot of people give a lot of flack to the second book. I don't understand why it was 5 stars for me, just like this one was. But I chose this one because this has some callbacks to the first book that I thought were very well done. And I really, really enjoyed seeing someone get what was coming to them, even though it happened in the way it did in here. It was kind of cheesy, but like it was very rewarding. If you'd read the whole series, it was a very rewarding comeuppance for one of the characters in here. But basically, we have two characters who think that they are cursed. Whoever they start dating, once they break up, that person goes on to find their happily ever after. And so these two characters are like, come on, what if we just date each other? Because if we date each other, then we'll go on to find our happily ever after. The curse will be lifted. Something has to give. And then they start up a romance of their own, and it's very cute. I really enjoyed it. I love the way they came together in this story too, because we have a main female character who's kind of able to uproot her life at any given moment and go on a new adventure. And then that leads her to our main male character. I just loved this so much. Like I said, there is a lot of comeuppance for a character that needed it from the first book. And I really adored them as a couple. So Abby Jimenez is pretty much an auto-buy author for me at this point. I really enjoy her writing. I enjoy the fact that she brings real life problems into her books and explores them in a way that makes me feel like it's done with care. I loved the anxiety representation in the second book. That's why I loved it so much, because I thought that was really well done. But this had to make the list simply because, like I said, the throwbacks to the first book, they were done so well. Okay, and then the one everybody probably saw coming on this list for me is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I loved this. I love Sherlock. I love fantasy. And then you combine a Sherlockian type, I'm just going to say couple, they're not together, but duo in this Sherlock and Watson type duo. I loved it so much. And then I loved the mystery at the heart of it. I thought the mystery was well laid out. I was on my edge of my seat the entire time I was reading it. The fantasy elements were very good. And the best way to describe this book is Attack on Titan meets Sherlock and Watson. That's the best way I can describe any of this. But we have a city that has all of these circles, and the inner circle is where the most protected, the most higher up in the city live. And of course, the outer rings are under attack. And they're under attack by these things called Leviathans. So we have two elements to this story. Them trying to fight off the Leviathans and the Sherlock and Watson mystery in here. And they work so well together. I really loved it. But we have this guy who has been murdered, but no one can explain what happened because he has a tree growing out of his body. And so our character, I believe his name is Dinios, goes to investigate on behalf of the Sherlock character in here because she won't leave her house, but he has perfect recall. So she uses him to go into the world, infiltrate the world, and do the investigating on her behalf. He can come back and recall everything. So she doesn't really need to step out of her house. She doesn't really want to step out of her house. And when he goes to investigate, everything gets turned on its head, and it was just so good. It's so good. If you like mystery and fantasy, I highly recommend this. I know a couple people who have given it like 3.5 stars, but most of the people I've talked to have given it 4 or 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this, and I cannot wait for the second one. I got an email for the ebook, and I had to say no because I know ebooks are horrible for me, and I hated turning it down. But I am so looking forward to this next book. I loved this so much. Okay, I have some explaining to do because this was actually a 4-star read for me whenever I first read it, but it hasn't left my brain, and I feel the need to up it to a 4.5 or 5-star for enjoyment purposes, but also the fact that it hasn't left my brain. And that is The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. I love this. This was so fun. This had so many elements of fantasy that I absolutely love, including dragon riders. So if you're ever looking for a dragon rider story, here you go. The dragon rider dragon element to this is kind of fictitious. I guess that's the best way to say it. So it's not like the dragon's the bestie or anything like that, but I really, really love this one. And if you guys know anything about me, you know I am always down for a good heist story. And that is at the heart of this. I will glom on to anything with a heist. I will probably love it because heists are my favorite thing. There are a group of people who capture our MC in order to perform this heist. And this was kind of, everybody compares it to Fourth Wing. I don't think that's an accurate description of this because I do think that this leans more heavily into the fantasy elements and not the romantic elements. There is some romance in this, but it's not like at the forefront. And the dragon rider concept is a little different in this. So comparing it to Fourth Wing, I think does it a little bit of a disservice, but this was so fun and I haven't stopped thinking about it. Next, we have a sci-fi, Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. This was a 5-star prediction for me that just came through in the best way possible. I absolutely love stories like this where it's sort of dystopian. Well, I would say that it's dystopian, but this is a world that has been ravaged and these people were trained. This is the last remnants of humanity. They were trained to be warriors and everything like that. But now that everything has come to a head, they're just trying to survive and at this point repopulate the world. So you kind of see what's coming. We have some like Handmaid's Tale kind of things going on in here, but we have a girl not willing to just settle into this role, and there is this place that all of the last remnants of humanity have gathered, and she decides she's going to break away. She's kind of trailing her brother who got a crap assignment and comes to find out that things aren't exactly what she thought they were and that she had been lied to for quite some time. And the faction that she has spent her life trying to build up might just be in the wrong. I really, really loved everything about this. And I'm hoping there's more. I haven't seen if this is a series or not, but I'm hoping there's more. I really, really love this one. And on the same thread of I love a heist, the Stardust Grail, this is a heist. This is solely about a heist, but it's also about found family. It's a very much point A to point B book, but I do love that. I am not one that needs a whole lot of character development and stuff like that to enjoy a story. I want the story. However, I do think there is good character work here. I do think that there is enough. If you are a character driven reader, you will still enjoy this. But we have a girl who finds out that one of her friends, who happens to be of another species, is about to lose everything important to him because humanity has begun to chase down the Stardust Grail, which belongs to his people and has helped them thrive. But they want it for those specific reasons. They want to be the ruling force. They want this power. They want to be able to use the Grail for humanity. And she has to decide, does she want to help these people or does she want to help her own people? Which way is the right way? She has this big moral dilemma through the whole book of which side she's going to land on, and why should she help the one race that was never willing to help her, which was her own, or should she help her friend who, like, this technology belongs to them, and help him to maintain the status quo, I guess it is. And I really, really love this. I love this so much. It's another that lives rent-free in my brain. I really want to reread it. I've got The Deep Sky on my 25 to read in 2025, so I am going to be reading more Yumi Kidasai in the future, but so good. So, so good. Okay, I couldn't do this list without throwing out some romantasy, which there are some romance that I've already talked about. But listen, guys, House of Bane and Blood. Now, this one is not the one I gave 5 stars, but this series so far has, again, lived rent-free in my brain. We have a female character who is a railroad tycoon. My husband works for the railroad. And yes, that is what got me in this, but the main male character, I absolutely adore the main male character in this series. I love the relationship between the two of them. This is very, it is enemies to lovers, but it's because their families are at war. It feels very much like steampunk Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. I really, really adored this one. I think more people need to pick it up. And I have to give a shout out to Covers with Cassidy because she is the one who turned me on to this. And I binged these two back to back and I want more. I need more. When is the next book coming out? I need to know because they were so good. So good. There's a lot of action in this series, and I really appreciate that because there are a few romantasy that I've read that are very low action. The story doesn't seem to be developed beyond the romance. This one has some great world building. It has some great factions. There is a lot that's going on in these books, and I devoured them. They were so good. This next one was probably my biggest surprise of the year because I put it off and put it off and put it off because I knew I was going to be the one person who didn't like this book. The Will of the Many. Yes, I read The Will of the Many while I took my break and I loved this so much. And I've talked to a couple of people. I'm sorry, my dog is going absolutely crazy. Let me let him in. Don't knock over the tripod, okay? Just lay down. Just lay down. No, don't knock over the tripod, please. He's in the room now, so he's no longer whining. But yes, back to The Will of the Many. I did read this on my break. I loved this. I did think it was a little long. I don't think we needed as much words in this book as what we got, but I loved the main character. And there are a couple of people who have talked about how they don't like overpowered MCs and everything came to him so easily. And I'm like, wait. They explain this. He was raised to be one of these mages, I guess is a way to look at it, and to have political power. He has the secret, but we knew this. We knew this going into the book. That's one of the first things that's talked about with our main character. And so I really enjoyed everything about this. There's a little bit of a mystery going on here. And I've heard this compared to like an MLM scheme with the way the magic works, and I have to agree. But I just loved watching our main character go through all of these trials, uncover this mystery. He's sent to infiltrate the school in order to figure out what happened to his adopted father's, I believe it's his brother. Something has happened, and he has to somehow navigate this maze where the person has disappeared from. And that's part of what he's learning to do at the school. And he has to rise up in the ranks in order to get access to these places that he needs. And he does it quickly. Everyone's a little bit surprised because he has a persona that he's trying to live up to, but he also has an adopted father that, you know, they're like, okay, he saw the potential in this kid. That's why he adopted him. This isn't surprising. No one in the book is surprised, yet I've talked to a couple of people who were surprised that he went this route with this book. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this. I do see why people sometimes compare this to Red Rising. It is very much infiltrating the hierarchy, which, you know, this is what the series is called, and bringing them down from the inside. Very much that type of scenario. But I enjoyed this more than Red Rising, I do believe. And this is making it to my top 100. I really, really enjoyed this one so much. I don't know what else to say. I think everything else has been said by other booktubers. I don't have anything new to add other than what has been said. And I'm kind of sad it took me so long to read this. It is a chunky boy, so that probably put me off to it a little bit too. And I did think it was a little too long, but it was fantastic. Oh, editing Trinity here. Hello, hello. No, actually, I just recorded the video and forgot something, and I realized I forgot something. Yeah, Kagan the Damned. I can't believe I forgot this one. It's one that's hiding in the bedroom, and I was going through the books that were stacked next to me. I absolutely adored Kagan the Damned. If you like a character who is down on his luck and anti-hero as all get out, you will love Kagan of the Damned. It is very, very dark, so I can't recommend it to everybody, but we have a main character who basically sees his entire family be slaughtered, and when this happens, he realizes he's failed. He runs away to become a drunk, and then all of a sudden a rebellion starts to crop up, and they go in search of Kagan and his brothers to try and see if they can take down the Witch King who has taken over. And it's so good. It is so good. It's funny in a dark humor kind of way, and it's just so engaging from page 1 to the end. I couldn't put these books down. I actually binged this series, which I never do with a fantasy series because I feel like I will burn out very quickly. And I did. I read these 3 books back to back. I enjoyed the heck out of them. I really loved Kagan's brothers. And this pulls no punches, so be prepared for that. There are a lot of deaths. There are a lot of horrific deaths in this series, but if you like an anti-hero, if you like a good rebellion story, if you like morally gray characters, this is a series you should definitely pick up. If you lean on the grimdark scale towards grimdark, I highly, highly recommend Kagan. And that's all I have to say about that one, but I absolutely love that series, and I have gotten people to pick it up since I read it, and I hope more of you guys will pick it up. Don't be put off by the pretty covers. The pretty covers are misleading. Before we get to my top book of the year, oh, I do need to talk about Kingdom of the Wicked. So Kingdom of the Wicked, the whole series, I blew through it. It was so fun, so good. A YA series to start out, but as the character grows, like as the books progress, it becomes more adult as you go through them, and I really enjoyed it. It was one that I just had to binge, which doesn't happen to me very often, so I did want to include it in this list. I just highly recommend it. If you guys like witches and demons and all of that stuff, I think you should definitely pick up Kingdom of the Wicked and get through that first book. The first book I think is good. I don't think it's bad, but I gave it like a 3.5. But each book I gave a higher rating to, and I gave the last one 5 stars. So that's why it's making this list, my favorite books of the year. But I really, really enjoyed Carrie Maniscalco's writing. I really liked the relationship in the book. I like how it developed. There is like a forced proximity type situation where they have to work together. But other than that, I do think that the YA tropes are a bit minimal in this series, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I have to talk about one I can't quite say it's a favorite just yet, and that is because I haven't finished it. However, my favorite books of the year last year, Art of Prophecy was on it. This is Art of Destiny, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I just haven't finished it yet. And so I do think it would make this list had I finished it. One thing I want to say about these, if you follow me, if you like what I like, I can't say this is going to be the series for you or not, because these are very character driven. However, I really like the exploration of the Asian folklore and stuff like that that's in these. That is the driving thing for me. I really like exploring the worlds that Wesley Chu presents to us, because I don't know, it's not something that I've been inundated with in fantasy. I don't know everything about this culture, and so it really piques my interest each time we go to a new place or we start adventuring. I wouldn't say journeying, because I still don't like journeying. There's not a whole lot of journeying in these stories. There's some, but we are pretty stuck in place with our characters through a lot of it. The journeying is not written into the story, let's just say that. And I love the martial arts aspect of this. I didn't know if that was going to be something that I loved going into it, but I really did. And I like I said, the only reason that I can't officially put it on the list is I haven't finished it yet, but I'm more than halfway through, and I will probably finish it before the end of the year. But I needed to get this video up, and this is going to get me through to the end of the year, so I won't be reading anything else. If you've watched any videos of mine, you probably know what's coming, and you can probably see what's missing on my shelves. That would be Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. Listen, guys, I loved this. It has been almost a year since I've read this book, because I read it immediately when it was published. But I love Gabriel. His favorite line, I say it sometimes, even though it's not appropriate. But I just adore what Jay Kristoff has done with Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned. This is one that's very difficult for me to talk about, because I don't remember what spoilers for the first book, and I want to talk about the added POV in this one, but that spoils the first book. And I want to talk about what happened that launched this book, and I can't. It's all spoilery. But Empire of the Vampire was so great and so epic in scope, and Jay Kristoff's macabre writing is just, it's something that I absolutely love. And I know it's hit or miss for people, but I mean, I adore it. My Nevernight's up there. You guys can see that. I love these. I do need to read some of his backlist books, that's for sure. But the 2 series that I have read from him, I absolutely adore. And if you like vampires and epic fantasy, this series is something that you should try. It is dark. It is sexy. There's a lot of spicy scenes, especially in this one. There are some in that one, but they're especially in this one. But it's vampires who are controlled by id, and he runs with that. So I really think that Jay Kristoff does vampires a huge favor in this series, because it's so good. It's so good. Like I said, this one is very difficult for me to talk about because of spoilers, and it's very difficult for me to remember what is a spoiler in Empire of the Vampire. So I just want to say, read it. Read it, read it, read it. And like, I get that a lot of people don't like stuff this dark, but I do. So there's where we are with that. Again, I have no idea how many books are actually on this list. I didn't count, and I added series to this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have found something that you can read yourself and enjoy, and have a absolutely lovely day. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.